I can't remember if it was a seminar I attended or a book I read, but it was about how law enforcement and news reporters have similar goals. And that got me thinking, yeah, we both write reports. No, okay, so we both gather information. We both seek facts, try to get to the truth, right? Both interview people, both serve the public, both have to build relationships and harness resources, and both work under deadlines. We do. You work hard to get it right, but at some point, the investigation has to come to an end, and you write that report. What would you name this podcast?
I really have no idea.
Any creative in you?
No, I don't. You're going to have to look at all the other podcasts and stuff that are done and not copy that, because I am sure there is so much done on this case. I have friends in other states, and if we travel and have dinner with somebody new that I meet and they like, I know you, people talk about this case a lot.
Greene County Sheriff Jim Arnott sitting down with me for an exclusive interview.
And now with all the new social media stuff, it's Gypsy Rose continued, because it's going to always continue until it doesn't. I don't know how she'll end up her career in social media and the media. It probably won't end well. At some point, the newness is going to wear off, and people are going to start to figure things out and make their own decisions.
Gypsy Rose continued. You just named it.
There you go.
Sheriff Arnott in Springfield, Missouri leaves for his new role as a U.S. Marshal, appointed by the President. It's quite an honor. Sheriff Arnott has been with the Greene County Sheriff's Office for 37 years, 17 as sheriff. I was a news anchor and breaking news reporter for 26 years in Springfield and covered many sad and heinous cases with him throughout the decades. I've known him for nearly 30 years. And when I asked if he'd sit down with me for an exclusive interview before he heads into the next chapter of his life, he said yes. And I'm sure he was thinking, out of all the stories you want to talk about, you picked Gypsy? Yeah, I get it. I didn't want to pick Gypsy. I fought it hard. But dang it, she doesn't stop. And what is happening can't be ignored. So let's lay down some groundwork here. Sheriff Arnott has seen exactly 2 episodes of the Lifetime show, Life After Lockup, and it sounds like it was against his will. And I'll admit it's 2 more than I've seen. Thank you to creators who have reviewed clips. I feel like I'm all caught up. He has not followed her social media, and she has blocked me on most platforms. Yeah, so he's not up to speed on all of the web of lies creators have uncovered following the release of the videos and documents from his office under the Freedom of Information Act filed by Into the Weeds podcast. If you go to their YouTube channel, click on More at the top, you'll find the Google Drive that contains everything. I even have sound clips in there from my time as a reporter covering Dee Dee's murder and Nicholas's trial. The public defender and prosecutor.
Became abundantly clear as we went through more and more and more of the records that, Gypsy's mom was abusing her physically, medically.
He says most of Gypsy's teeth aren't her own because of the medication she was forced to take. Greene County Prosecutor Dan Patterson tells me this drop to second-degree murder and 10-year sentence still holds Gypsy accountable for her actions.
While also taking into account the extreme mitigating circumstances of the nearly 20 years of abuse at the hands of her mother.
I can't cover every backstory in this piece. There's simply too much. I encourage you to go look at this stuff for yourself. Come to your own conclusion. As I've said before, I would start with the interrogation videos. Another thing, his job, Sheriff Arnott, and the job of his investigators was to figure out who murdered Dee Dee Blanchard. Period. Once I really understood that, I was able to put this story into perspective a little more. It didn't stop me from asking him a series of questions he had no answers for, but it did make me better see how we got here. Sheriff Arnott sat with me for a long time, and he answered every question he could, and I appreciate that. And one last point we must never forget. At no time did Clauddine Dee Dee Blanchard deserve to be slaughtered in her bed as she slept by someone Gypsy brought to their home. Full stop. The Toll Podcast. Gypsy Rose continued. The Toll. I'm Nancy Simpson. My first question to Sheriff Arnott was, did you know them?
I knew of them, but I didn't intimately know them, like went to events or anything like that. But I did know of them because they were frequently in the news.
I knew of them too. Dee Dee and Gypsy would often come around the station looking for free tickets to get into big country music concerts. We had a Take Me Backstage contest where you would decorate a t-shirt, and if you got picked, you would, yeah, you guessed it, get to go backstage. I remember Gypsy, no teeth, in her decorated t-shirt, sitting in her wheelchair. It was the Keith Urban concert. She's in her 20s at this point, looking like 12. I went up to her and I know I was like, I like your pink boots. Did you make that shirt yourself? Oh, can I take a picture of you with your wheelchair? No. That's really my only Gypsy story, though. Until the murder. She wrote to and sent videos to Nicholas Godejohn, the man with autism she manipulated for years before getting him to Springfield to stab her mother to death while Dee Dee slept in her bed. Gypsy wrote to him that she was a local celebrity. Yeah? No? Yeah?
I would not classify her as a local celebrity, but both her and her mom did a lot to draw attention to themselves, so I could see where they felt that way.
Gypsy did fly all over the U.S., being a kind of motivational speaker of sorts, attending conferences, getting a lot of attention in certain circles, trips to Disney World, throwing out the first pitch here in Springfield, getting a lot of attention. As the murder investigation unfolded at the house on Volunteer Way north of the Springfield city limits, a woman named Marcia, says she was Gypsy's adopted grandma, told a deputy how amazed she was of this little girl. She wasn't a little girl, by the way. Gypsy was a month away from being 24.
Gypsy, literally is the type of child that just, she stands in front of 1,000 people and can give a speech and not scared a bit. You know, she's not fearful.
Right.
And she's friendly. She's polite to everybody.
I asked Sheriff Arnott about those first critical moments of the investigation.
What we really try to do is keep an open mind and not get tunnel vision or narrowly focused on something. So we were keeping everything open until the evidence or the facts that we learned would put us in a different direction. So, you know, we were keeping an open mind up until the point of, as you know, we were actively looking. We were on horseback. We had volunteers everywhere. We have put out lots of media stuff. I was holding press conferences pretty regular to try to get the information out there because, as you know, any type of murder, we need a quick turnaround. And when we had what we thought to be an abduction, also, and maybe a possible another murder, I was very concerned about that. So, being a detective, most of my career time is of the essence, and so we were moving as quick as possible, working straight through trying to figure out the information.
He says it was all hands on deck.
We put everybody into this investigation. It wasn't just one investigator assigned. It was the whole division of investigators, over 20 investigators, working on this as fast as we can to reach some kind of resolution.
Everyone, it seemed, was locked in as this all unfolded.
The clues come to us in Facebook, and those things started to develop when we started tracking IP addresses and we started checking things because of the mysterious messages that came out on her mom's Facebook page. And that's when everything kind of opened up to us.
That was the big pivotal point.
That was a big pivotal point.
Gypsy wrote these.
Yes.
Those Facebook messages posted after the murder, the ones that had friends and family very concerned. They then alerted authorities. One read, "That bitch is dead," and the other, "I fucked her and raped her sweet, innocent daughter." Her scream was so loud. LOL. Arnott says investigators tracked the couple, Gypsy and Nicholas, to Nick's family's home in Wisconsin.
Hey, we've got information, we've got eyes on. No, nobody in a wheelchair. Everybody walked into the house and have been walking out. That was the, that's not right. That's not who we're looking for. I guess we got the wrong person. But then when they made entry, got her in custody, walked her out, and we talked to the detectives like right then. They're like, yeah, she can walk fine, and this is her for sure. That was a huge thing. Like, what do we have? What have we started to unravel? Because all the information we have from whether it's news media stories or the neighbors is she can't walk, she's in a wheelchair, she may have cancer, she may have this problem, that problem, a host of issues. But then we find out medical issues start to unravel where there's really not very many, and then she can walk. And when we got the information hooking her up with Go to John, and we checked on his history, the history he had, we started to look at that and go, we got something very bizarre here.
His history of an indiscretion involving his computer at a McDonald's. Then information started rolling in.
Once we started putting some of that information out, that is when information started flooding in from everywhere. Louisiana, Missouri, Kansas. That information started coming in on, hey, do you know this? Hey, do you know that? Hey, we had this incident. And that's when it got really complicated. And I want to start off with saying things are not always as they appear.
When you said in that moment, things are not always as they appear, that statement, what did you mean, like, in that moment? What did that mean to you?
You've known me for a long time at press conferences and just talking. I don't speak with a lot of notes. I may have some talking points, but that really wasn't one of them. That was something that I developed when I just started talking, when I initially opened it up, because the issue is everybody thinks, oh my gosh, what happened to Gypsy? She's a victim. And then my thoughts were, things are not always as they appear. You may think that this person's a victim when it's just the absolute opposite. This person's a suspect.
Sheriff Arnott says when people first meet him, many have one main question about this case.
When did you know that she was alive and it was all good? Well, it's when I stepped out of the command post and made an announcement that she was located. I mean, that's when I knew, like then. So they want to know, when did you know that there was something up? Well, I knew that she was alive and I knew that she was walking. And then 5 minutes later, I walked out and gave a press conference to the media that was there. And so, yeah, that's probably the biggest, and then the twists and turns. Everybody's always curious about, were they a hurricane victim? Were they... Honestly, I can't tell you. I mean, yes, that places them in that time, but what do you believe, and who do you believe? Because most everybody we talked to didn't tell us the truth.
I was at the main press conference back in the sheriff's office. You can hear me ask a question at one point. I was like, was this guy Nick the mastermind? Turns out no. Just watch any of those dozens of videos Gypsy made Nick to lure him here to kill her mom. The sheriff says he was on to Gypsy from the get-go. The Gypsy we're seeing now is a repeat. It's continued.
What a lot of folks did not see is, I think, probably the level of not caring and, posting the things on her Facebook, which those things that if you were a grieving daughter, you would not be posting. And so to come back out later and say, oh my gosh, I felt so bad that this happened. But at the time and right after, you see videos of her in a hotel room not feeling that way. So that's probably the side that a lot of folks did not see and are seeing more of it nowadays, that records are open and people are digging stuff and things are being released. You see a little bit more of that side that you would probably consider when you made a judgment.
Ah, that video from the Days Inn.
Hi,
But Sheriff Arnott does not disregard the Munchausen by proxy aspect of this case. He believes me when I talk about all that's been uncovered, but his stance remains that Dee Dee kept control over Gypsy and scammed people out of money.
Gosh, there are so many perspectives on that case. I don't know where to start. Some people, there's an element of victimization towards Gypsy Rose, the way that she was manipulated by her mother, and what you'd look as a classic Munchausen syndrome by proxy case with some weird twist to it. So this is how I look at it. In law enforcement, I know generational families that commit the same crimes that grandpa was in, dad was in jail, and now, the son's in jail. And I see the generational things that they pick up, and they do the same thing to end up in jail or prison. You have to look at this case pretty much the same way. She has turned into her mom. She is doing the manipulation. She is doing those things. And so how much of that is she responsible for? How much is that a total influence and manipulation by her mom? You've got to figure that out for yourself. And that's why we have the justice system, to make those decisions. That's what juries do, and that's what judges do. So you can just present the information that you have and let that decision be made.
He talks about how the case evolved as his investigators started digging.
I can tell you nothing surprises me anymore. So in this case, when it evolved so quickly into us learning some of the great big things, and then we started learning the smaller things were they in Hurricane Katrina? I know they were in the area, but were they truly a victim, or did they just take advantage of a free ride to Springfield, Missouri to start a new path of lies and destruction? I can't tell you. At one point, I told the investigators, once we got to a point, I said, stop investigating. There is nothing more. We have to work on, we just need to present the murder case. And that's what our case was about.
And back to the Greene County Sheriff's Office with Sheriff Jim Arnott at the top. They had one job: find out who killed Dee Dee Blanchard and turn that over to the prosecutor.
We are not doing a mini-series on how big this is, because that's what it would take to dig it all up and uncover it. They also took advantage of Hurricane Katrina and medical records lost and all these kind of things. But there is a lot of truth to that. There is things that we couldn't dig up there because records were lost. But how far back the manipulation goes, and then who do you believe? Do you believe the dad that just now started coming around, and when things ramped up in the media, dad is all involved in it and tells one story? It is hard to disseminate what is truth and what is a lie. But I can tell you the majority of it's a lie.
We'll come back to that.
There is two sides to that, but unfortunately, when you see a very dark side of somebody that's pretty deliberate, in my opinion, you've got to just let somebody else decide that, and that is the judge and the jury's decision to make, whichever direction they go. And it's so complicated of a case, because you want to be sensitive to where she was a victim. You want to be sensitive to some of those things, because having your teeth removed and having, to take drugs to where your hair falls out and things like that, the things that we believe her mother did do, versus exactly what she planned out with Nick Godejohn and helped execute it and then celebrate it afterwards. So where do you lie in that? Where's the middle ground?
I push back on what happened with her teeth. So, okay, the things that I have seen and the things I've gone through, she has said several times that she drank Pediasure through a bottle as an adult. Her medical records say that she had bad oral hygiene. That was the reason her teeth were rotting out of her mouth. And when Dee Dee took her to the dentist, she was as an adult, right? So she signed for her teeth to get pulled out because they were so bad. And a dentist doesn't just yank all of your teeth out. And so I think I see it differently. I see it as Gypsy's an adult. She's done things that have, progressed her teeth to this condition, and she had to have them pulled. Is that not how you see it?
It's so, at this point, it's so speculative. Now you're talking years later, these newer stories come out and you go, oh, well, yeah, that makes sense. But as far as the criminal investigation, it splintered off into so many of those things that is something we got overwhelmed with the directions the case was going. And so obviously we can't prosecute Dee Dee for child abuse. So we don't need to look at that. What we need to look at is what took place, what the actions were, what the evidence showed, and then try to gather as much background as possible. But to run down all the rabbit holes was just crazy. I mean, it just became so overwhelming for the investigators.
And I guess another way to look at it, did Dee Dee give her that bottle? Fill it full of Pediasure, buy it for her? I mean, there's so many stories and versions of stories now. But Arnott reiterates, none of that mattered to him.
We had a meeting and it was like, what do you want us to follow up on? What direction should we go? And at one point, like I said, we just said, we need to stop. I mean, it's none of those investigations, although it's fraudulent behavior, it's obviously lying and taking money from places that didn't need to give money, but there was no money to give back, so it's not like we're going to be able to award anybody any money back. And Dee Dee, who was probably the most guilty of those things, is gone, and then we have Gypsy. How much do you dig? Now, the investigators will tell you, after maybe watching some of the episodes and miniseries she's come up with, that they can't believe how far it's gone. Could we probably go back and disprove a lot of stories that are coming out now? Probably so, but what does it do? Our part is over. She went to prison and did time, and Go to John is still there, so we did our part on the investigation. But as you know, this story is so much bigger, and it's not always as it appears.
Sheriff Arnott says his investigators spent about a year looking over this case.
I think we were pretty much complete when the plea deal was made. That was something that we are really not in the loop on that. That is something the prosecutor will work out with the victim and families and that kind of deal. So that was a decision by the prosecutor. Understandably, why? But because the main perpetrator is, well, it depends on how you look at it, but Nick Godejohn was the one that actually committed the physical murder. So I can see why that the prosecutor made a deal.
I'm by no means a Gypsy expert. There are content creators who have spent years uncovering stories, bringing stuff to light, getting cozy with the family, and obtaining documents, revealing so many lies. And there's more and more every day. I can recognize there are not endless resources, time, manpower, and money for the sheriff's office to spend on one case when the killers are known. At some point, you have to write that report and turn it over. And I've swayed back and forth on what I believe and what the real story might be here. I've been, oh, poor Gypsy. I've been, whoa, Gypsy was in charge. Wait, we don't know what happened behind closed doors in that house. To now, back to taking a hard look at Dee Dee and her undeniable role in this mess. Dee Dee had fatal flaws when it comes to Gypsy. Knowing Gypsy was stealing her meds, her money, not holding her accountable. Instead of calling police when Gypsy shot her several times with a pellet gun in their house, she posted on Facebook that she'd been shot by a man on the Walmart parking lot. Her note, "I have the best little nurse, Gyp." It appears Dee Dee was pretty sick at the end, although the neighbor didn't notice any extreme changes. In a message to her friend, Gypsy writes that Dee Dee is suffering from diabetes, glaucoma, liver disease, and Parkinson's. In a video to Nick, Gypsy expresses her frustration that her mother isn't going to help them with rent, how they need a house, a car, and money. Searches on Dee Dee's computer at this time show she planned to kick Gypsy out. It may have answered the big bags of what appear to be clothes in the crime scene photos, and it appears she turned a blind eye to Gypsy's own plan of murder. There's a video from Gypsy to Nick where she shows him she can walk, and she's hid it from everyone, including her mom, until 2011, 4 years before the murder. It's in her book, too. But who says Gypsy was keeping the secret from her mother? Gypsy? We don't believe Gypsy about hardly anything else, so why this? I see pictures of Gypsy, her legs tucked up under her in the wheelchair. There's a video where she flops off the porch into the snow. Her legs. It looks like they move.
I'm about to dive off our porch into the pile of snow. You ready?
That feels weird to me. It always has. There's a picture where she's messing with Easter eggs, but her butt is on the floor, knees up to her chin. She's kneeling, clearly using her legs. What is true? This is his point.
Yeah, here's the deal. The bottom line is Dee Dee was murdered and didn't deserve to be murdered, no matter what. Nobody deserves to be murdered. You know, we owe as Monday morning quarterback what we did, and I think we did a good job. I think the community would have liked to know more. Everybody loves the mystery part of this, and to go down the rabbit holes. Back then, we probably would have got more clear information than we can dig up now, but it didn't make sense for the case. The case was a murder, and her and Nick Godejohn were both charged. It's just hard to look at that and decide, should you have gone down those rabbit holes? I don't think so. I think we did the proper thing, but for her, what she calls celebrity status now, there doesn't seem to be justice done, because we all kind of know the truth behind her motivation, and that's fame and fortune.
We talked about Nick being manipulated by Gypsy.
Yeah, he was definitely manipulated, of course. You'd be foolish to say anything different, but he was a willing participant. You know, he did it for love, as I think is his claim. Gosh, that guy has some problems too. You know, it's the two of them getting together was not a good thing.
I asked him how does he feel about Nicholas Godejohn getting life and Gypsy Rose Blanchard getting 10 years.
I don't not support that deal. Everybody has their opinion on who's as guilty as the other, and I understand the prosecutor was doing what's best for the case and to get a conviction, and I don't disagree with it. Would I like to have seen Gypsy go away for a lot longer than she did, because I think she was more culpable than what her plea deal was, of course. But you know, a lot of that is after the fact, after you see her come out and do the things that she does. Most people now are really intrigued with her thinking, but then can also watch a few episodes of whatever show that she's on, and she contradicts herself throughout the whole thing. So if you're any type of investigator at all, you go, she's lying.
I explained to him about how I feel Dee Dee was manipulated by Gypsy on many levels, and I tell him about that video where she shows Nick that she's been lying about being able to walk, even lying to her mother.
It's because of her behavior since she's left prison that we've been able to see in the media has really driven a lot of people the other direction, just like you, and said, wow, there's a lot of manipulation here, and there's a lot of not truth. And when you look at some of those things, you know, in her history with what she's saying now, you think, yeah, that doesn't make sense. But unfortunately, we don't have Dee Dee here to ask those questions. And, you know, they kept to themselves when it came to sharing their secrets. They were pretty good about keeping things between the two of them. I don't know if that was purposely. I'm assuming it's purposely kept people out from knowing the actual truth.
Oh, yes. Her appearance on talk shows, going on podcasts, the Dr. Phil show, Mommy, Dad, and Dearest, her show on Lifetime, her book, So many stories filled with lies that are easy to disprove now that we can see all of these videos, these private Facebook messages, computer searches, GPS coordinates. It's truly wild how much was a lie.
Looking back at it after we watch everything, should she have got more time? I think everybody thinks that. What's a little bit odd is you think, oh, you spend, you get a 10-year sentence, you spend several years in prison, and maybe that gives you time to reflect and get counseling and understand. But if you watch any of those shows, you know that none of that took place. And so that's when you go, yeah, she probably definitely should have done more time. And, if the prosecutor had all the shows to watch and stuff before he got to make his decision, I'm sure he'd be influenced in a different way too, just like we all are now.
I asked him about Gypsy's microdeletion diagnosis. It's very rare, 1q21.1. When doctors discovered it, it answered almost everything. All of Gypsy's medical problems could be attributed to this chromosomal deletion. Did his investigators know much about it as they worked the case?
I don't know where that came in, when that information came in. It's been so long I can't remember when that was known. Do you know when it was?
So the medical community discovered the 1q21.1 in 2008, and then she was officially diagnosed in 2011.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what records we had at that time, and if that is something that the prosecutor had reviewed versus us. I'm not sure. I don't remember.
Okay. Because it would have answered why Dee Dee was taking her to the hospital so much. Do you know if Gypsy's medical records were reviewed by professionals outside the defense team? I
don't, to be quite honest. I am sure the prosecutor, every time we've had a case with medical records, he has somebody review it that's a medical expert, so I'm sure that happened.
You have to remember he had investigators getting into the details of the case, and it's been over a decade. We also know from Rod, the dad, in the Mommy, Dead, and Dearest HBO show and messages, that they knew about the microdeletion diagnosis then, and Gypsy wrote to her neighbor friend about it. It explained why Gypsy was so sick. For real sick. Her mother taking her to doctors, working to figure out why she had failure to thrive. That was real. And when I get here, I think about what the sheriff's investigators found as they started to dig into the case. A police report from October 2009. Gypsy was 18. Dee Dee's name is spelled Clauddine, Clauddine, not Claudinia. And Blanchard has no E on this report. The investigator writes that he was dispatched to Volunteer Way, Dee Dee and Gypsy's Habitat for Humanity house, to meet with DFS, Family Services, about a child at that location. There was a mother and child at the house with DFS, saying the mother claimed her daughter is paralyzed from the waist down, has MS, cancer, and other medical issues. A hotline call was made from the hospital, with the doctor concerned that he couldn't find these symptoms that would support what the mother alleged about her daughter. It goes on to say the hospital was concerned about inconsistent birth dates and lack of medical diagnosis. We know the mother and daughter consistently used a younger birth date for Gypsy. DFS wanted to make sure Gypsy wasn't a runaway or a missing kid. Dee Dee told them they were Hurricane Katrina survivors, and that's how they got to Springfield, Missouri. As far as all the inconsistencies, Dee Dee says she didn't know how that happened. She then said she had a marriage that ended in divorce and feared her ex-husband. Went on to say she changed her daughter's information at the hospital so her ex wouldn't find them. Deputies ran them through the system and discovered Gypsy was an adult, 18, and, quote, does suffer from some type of mental handicap, end quote. Scene was cleared. I wonder how Gypsy was acting in front of them. Anyway, it reminds me of after the murder, the woman named Marcia was questioned by authorities. Gypsy called her grandma. She said she watched Gypsy sometimes, like when Dee Dee had sleep studies done, and how Gypsy acted 8 or 9. But we know she was a full-ass adult.
She's 8, 9, mentality-wise. Age-wise, different.
Right.
But mentality-wise, most polite child you've ever met in your life. Mm-hmm. Boy, we could use more of them.
No kidding.
No more of that, please. I wonder what detectives thought as they heard Gypsy while she was in the interrogation room talking to an officer in Wisconsin about her 3-week trip to Disney, eating too much sugar, and running up and down Main Street.
I went and danced the waltz with Prince Charming and Cinderella.
Really?
That was really fun. My mom and I got the Disney dining plan, which is unlimited food.
Okay.
A human being cannot eat this much food.
Too much food?
And we went and eat at Chef Mickey's. I had way too much sugar. Whenever you go anywhere in Disney, they try to pump you with sugar.
Mm-hmm.
By the end of the night, it was closing time. I was so filled with sugar that I was dancing up and down Main Street at Magic Kingdom.
I think about investigators finding another report, this one from August 2010. A Domino's pizza worker was delivering a pizza to Dee Dee. The spelling on her name, again, different. Clauddine, this time Blanchard with an E. Anyway, the worker says he delivered a pizza. Dee Dee tried to use a gift certificate from an out-of-state franchise. Driver said no, went to leave with the pizza, and she grabbed his shirt collar from behind and left red marks on his neck. The driver told authorities they'd had problems with her in the past, far cry from how she's described by others, like former neighbor Dominique. She described Dee Dee and Gypsy as super bubbly all the time. Kind of fake. Even when Gypsy looked so sick, like she was going to die, always smiling, happy.
Oh, yeah, what I could see. At least what they showed to me. I mean, again, I wasn't as close as these other people were. But what I saw, it just something never seemed like real. They didn't seem very real. It seemed like they were all in their own world, their own make-believe world of Disney and Marvel and all the pretend.
But Dominique also talks about walking up to the house, hearing the two yelling at each other.
I remember knocking on their door for some reason, I don't remember, and Dee Dee barely cracked it open and had her robe on, but it was like maybe 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and she's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, honey, I just can't, I'm sick today, and come back another day." But it was weird because I heard a bunch of yelling outside, so I think that's the reason. I just know that I went there, I was on my way there, and I heard a bunch of yelling, and so it just didn't make sense, you know? So, like, okay, so now you're acting like you just woke up?
I asked Sheriff Arnott about all the Facebook messages that came to light with the Freedom of Information Act release, the FOIAs. The ones that show Dee Dee, Gypsy's dad, Rod, and stepmother Christy actually having a loving and kind relationship, talking about medical complications and invitations to come to Springfield and stay at their house during a hurricane, talks of Rod taking Gypsy on vacation, something he backed out of fairly quickly. No, Sheriff Arnott says he didn't know about those. Those would be rabbit holes.
What does it have to do with the murder of Dee Dee? You know, it could be play into a role of the defense from Gypsy, maybe. And of course, that's what her attorney does, is pull up all that information to use in court. But for us, the facts were the facts. She had planned it out. She had him come down. They had a full plan to go to a hotel afterwards, to mail the weapon back to his house. All those things were planned out. That's the investigation that we looked into. The lifetime of lies and manipulation. It got so deep that we had to have a stopping point.
And little cooperation made investigating difficult.
Not everybody was completely open with, this is what I think. It was hard to track that information down because they didn't want to get it wrapped up in a scam of some kind or get charges filed on them, you know, because they have information on some type of fraud or something. So, yeah, it was tough weighing through those things.
Like who specific? Family members or friends?
Well, both. I mean, just, you know, you go out of state and start doing an investigation. A lot of people don't really want to talk to you because they don't know what it is, and then they don't know the extent that Dee Dee has gotten into and what she's said and what she hasn't said, because there's a lot of untruths, whether it was a scam or not, different things. They didn't tell the truth.
We talked about Gypsy being on social media, influencing young women and girls. He hasn't seen any of Gypsy's antics on platforms like TikTok, but even after his 2 episodes of Life After Lockup, his opinion is strong.
No, I would say absolutely not. Internet or media. I also don't think my grandkids should have it either. So it's one of those deals. That'll never happen. But I think she's in the spotlight now and will be for a while, so everybody will watch her moves. But I mean, that's what's got everybody talking, because she does do that. And a lot of people have spun the opposite direction on her, thinking she was a victim, and now they think she was the mastermind of everything, and continues to be, to get on TV and get all these appearances on these different shows. And that's the good thing about living in the United States, is you have that freedom of speech and can do these things. Other than the entertainment value, it's disgusting, because it really revolves around the murder of her own mother. And you don't see her talk about that in the specials very much. She talks about being a victim, but she really won't talk about the actual murder of her mom.
And he says, none of this should be surprising.
She was there in the house when it happened, did nothing to stop it, planned it out, and then celebrated afterwards. And that's what we need to come back to and go, that's the person that she is. She's not the celebrity she thinks she is.
I went to prison for 8.5 years because my own mom. Oh my God. Hey, we listen and we don't judge.
Do you feel that should have been a stipulation of her sentence?
I don't think you could enforce that.
Because she's making a lot of money.
I'm sure she is. But we work for the victims. That's really our job, period. We work for the victims. She's not a victim. She was a suspect. And did we get justice? I think we got justice, but when you see somebody get out and take advantage of it and is doing the same things that she claimed that her mom did, that's what she's doing right now. And you can't tell me there's a difference.
I asked Sheriff Arnott about fraud. There's a letter addressed to Into the Weeds podcast. They had requested any records related to fraud from Dee Dee and Gypsy. It says, quote, "It is our position that such fraud case does not exist. Therefore, we have nothing to provide." End quote. Sheriff Arnott clarifies this does not mean that no fraud was found.
So that's where we got to the point of all this information coming in about potential fraud, and we decided it didn't really matter, because there's no one to go after for it, and we need to focus on, the actual crime that took place, and that's the murder. So at one point we just didn't look at it anymore, because it didn't help or it didn't hurt the investigation. So we just had to limit our scope and just narrow it down to finishing the case.
Again, his job was to show who murdered Dee Dee. Everything else, back to the rabbit holes.
It's very hard to go, well, we need to look at the fraud in Louisiana, where she came from. Why? Just at that point. Now I can see why people want to put that whole picture together to see whose fault it is. What percentage of blame can we put on Dee Dee? What percentage of blame can we put on Gypsy? I get that now, but at the time, that's not what we're looking for. We're there to make an arrest and to prove who murdered Dee Dee, and we did.
This is a case that hasn't faded away, though, as far as he's concerned.
I get asked these questions all the time. If I travel to another state, you're the Gypsy Rose Sheriff, and I'm like, yeah, I am. And, and then they throw out the things aren't always as they appear. And I go, well, yeah. But the thing with that is what is bad is just the level of manipulation all the way around. And so to come out and be like a rock star of some kind that people are following and watching, and good grief. I mean, that's the part that I don't understand. So I'm definitely not on her side today. And if you watch any of the shows, which I've watched just a couple, it's a disgusting thing of manipulation that she's famous for plotting and going through with killing her mother.
I asked Sheriff Arnott about the idea that Gypsy may have played a bigger role in the actual stabbing. And her physically being in that bedroom doesn't change anything?
I don't know. It may have changed a perspective, but to be quite honest, as part of the crime, I mean, she was part of the planning. It was premeditated murder. She was an active participant in it. She helped conceal. She's just as guilty as the person that stabbed her mom.
But there wasn't a big chatter amongst investigators that you thought that she was doing any of the stabbing or was in the room when...
No, not really.
I asked him several questions there were no real answers to. I asked about certain DNA samples not being tested. He didn't know. I asked if anything stood out to him concerning Nick's secret he said he's taking to the grave. Nothing stood out. I asked about VisionCon, Gypsy deleting a bunch of those pictures before her arrest. Sheriff Arnott says the whole VisionCon aspect was weird, but didn't find anything criminal. I asked about David Blanchard, the window he went in and out of. Sheriff Arnott didn't know. We sat in his office for over an hour and a half. I asked about a lot. But again, it was his investigators who were in the thick of it. It's been more than a decade ago, or it didn't matter to the murder case, and only the murder case. Mike Stanfield, Gypsy's public defender, later becoming Gypsy's manager. I asked, bad optics? Yes, he agreed. Bad optics. And I asked about the HBO documentary, about that show coming out before Nick's trial.
I don't like shows that come out before the trial is done and those things, so, because you don't want to sway anyone's thinking, but I think the information at the trial that came out, I think, was enough for somebody to make the judge and everyone to make a decision. So I don't think the HBO special swayed that. And the sheriff looked nothing like me that portrayed in that thing, by the way. So I just want, for the audience, I do not look like Wilford Brimley, and that's who that looked like. So.
For the record.
For the record.
I did not like the way Mommy Deadenders portrayed Sheriff Arnott.
Exactly. I definitely don't wear my hat tilted back like that.
Okay, so the deal is, it's hard to learn so much after the release of all the documents and those videos. I, admittedly, went on a rant about all of the lies. Gypsy is so frustrating. Able to get the videos and other documents, GPS records, and DNA, like all of it. In 2011, the shift. She tells her mom she can walk. She tells Nick on video. Seeing Facebook messages between Rod and Dee Dee and Christy, and they're loving. Wild. Like, hey, you guys are having a hurricane. Come on up here and stay. Is Gypsy going to go on that vacation with you? City, because she needs treatment, so Mom's getting really sick. Parkinson's. We're piecing these together through messages, medicine that we see in the crime scene. The pellet gun where Gypsy shoots her, that happened. Hey, I was able to, lie to my mom about this, and she doesn't know about that. Let me grow up. She's not going to help me pay for rent when we move crying, the manipulation to Nick to date older men. You see that shift too within that. The film goes up on the windows, right? Because we think Gypsy was walking and her mom doesn't know what to walk. What am I supposed to tell the community? We can't reveal this. Now she calls you guys because her medicine's been stolen again, and we know it's Gypsy. Gypsy says she's shoving in her feeding tube. Googling what are the most common medicines that kids steal, what to do when kids steal. Yes, coordinate to Rare Breed. Did she go? Did she take Gypsy there? We don't know, but there is actual messages between Nick and Gypsy. Mom's going to kick me out. I don't know what to do. You got to get here. This timeline has to be bumped up. Oh my God, you guys, I ranted for like 5 freaking minutes. He was very patient with me. At the end, he looked at me like, do you feel better? Sir, that's what we're... Okay. So his answer, right? Okay, here we go. Did a lot of those things that I just said to you, is that new information?
Some of it is. To me, it may not have been to the investigator specifically, turning over the records and stuff, but some of that is, yeah.
And I think that's where people are like, why wasn't this highlighted more amongst you and the prosecutor? And it paints a different picture.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. But the thing is she's guilty of the crime. I think the issue is how much time did she serve. I think that's really the issue. So I think most people are not looking at was she found guilty. It's more of, well, she was found guilty, but he's doing life and she did 8 years. No matter how much time you get, it's never enough for the investigators most of the time, unless it's life or death. And so I don't think anyone thinks that she served the appropriate amount of time. But also you get 10 years, you don't do 10 years. That's also an issue with sheriffs, is that getting law passed that says that if you get sentenced to, like, truth in sentencing, you get 10 years, then you do 10 years, or you do maybe 80%. But most don't. If you get 10 years in Missouri, you probably do a year and a half, and then you get out. And so I don't think anybody does enough time for the crime that they do. So I think that's what you see people being disappointed in the system, is that she didn't do enough time. I think that's where the issue is. And I don't know that a different decision would be made.
And back to that. All that stuff didn't matter to his investigators because their job was to uncover who murdered Dee Dee. And it was Gypsy and Nick. For just a second, can we go back to, man, Gypsy gets me all riled up. And I'm not the only one. But this isn't totally like me. I mean, I'm animated and passionate, yes. But I feel like I got off track some.
Oh, it's so true. It's so true. It's so true. Like, oh my God, you were going to meet and greets and putting both hands on the table and leaning forward and being like, do you even know what's going on in your own backyard? You don't know anything about this case. Oh, you thought it was messed up? You don't know anything. Yeah, it was a world. You've been in a world.
Pamela Shelby is my sister. And she's also my producer.
So I want to start off by giving context to how we got here, because we had just launched season 2 in March of 2025. And after we had done this initial push to get the season live after 5 years of investigation and putting it together, we had a moment where it's like, okay, now what's next? And I said to you, you got to get on TikTok. And your response was, no, because you had a long and successful career in radio where you didn't have to be so face forward. And this would change that. So you got on TikTok, and in March of 2025, you started with 0 followers. And so as you were creating content, figuring it out, learning the ropes, we were also watching to see where the conversations were happening. And so months later, I said to you, you need to talk about Gypsy Rose Blanchard. And again, you were like, no, I don't have anything to say. And we did this with a couple different things. Like, you had Katrina coverage from when that had happened, and the documentary had just come out. So I was like, oh, you should talk about that too. This was late spring 2025. So you had to start with what we had. And the truth is that you did have something to say, because when the case first broke on Dee Dee Blanchard's murder, that morning, you called me. I was at work and you were in the newsroom, and you were like, you have to watch this. And you were breaking down to me what was going on at that time. Gypsy was missing. Dee Dee had been found murdered, and people in your station or in the building had known them because they had had ongoing relationships with Gypsy and Dee Dee, coming to concerts and coming to the station, and had these two kind of built up as beloved community members. So yeah, that's where it started. It turned out that at the same time that you were kind of dipping your toes in and learning about how to jump into conversations and what you could pull from and what it meant to be part of the community in Springfield, there was another team that were filling out FOIA requests and getting all of these documents. So there was real things to talk about. And boy, the rest feels like, at this point, history. I mean, you did build an organic following by being like, hi, I'll talk to you about this, and I'll find something valuable to say in regards to the Gypsy Rose Blanchard case if you sometimes let me talk about season 2, because we were really trying to find ways for people to also discover us and listen to this investigation that we had just put out regards to an alleged serial killer. That was where this conversation was birthed from, was finding ways for people to discover the Toll podcast season 2 poison control. But boy, oh boy, was this a journey, because you did get invited to panels. You've been invited to go through these FOIA releases and see what was done. I've watched your brain melt. Yeah, and it's just been a wild ride.
And I guess I feel duped too. As a reporter here in Springfield at the time of the murder, and now to find out Gypsy really was sick from this chromosomal deletion, and we still have so many questions about everything in between. As we started to wind down our conversation, I asked Greene County Sheriff Jim Arnott how he thinks the whole Gypsy Rose thing ends. Again, he does not follow any of her social media antics.
I can tell you, for just the average superstar, it never ends well. So for being the person that thinks she's rising to the top, it's not going to end well, because her story is not a good story.
I asked, who failed Gypsy?
Gosh, there are so many different angles. A lot of people look at, could things be caught in the medical records earlier when they were kind of doctor shopping, and but that has kind of come around to, I'm not sure if that would have fixed anything. I don't know. I think everything boils down to proper parenting, and so it just seems like there was a lot of advantage people were taking advantage of to better them, whether it's their media presence or getting trips to Disney World or those kind of things. If they didn't receive those, they probably wouldn't have got the attention. If they didn't get the attention, they may not have. We can always, say the what if kind of thing, but I don't know what failed other than proper parenting, and I don't know.
I don't know how to answer that question either. I go back to the little things like Gypsy running her teeth, admitting to sucking Pediasure through a bottle. Okay, again, did Dee Dee get her those bottles? Did Gypsy steal them? Did she get better treatment from her mom acting like a baby? Did it make life easier? Make Dee Dee love her more? We don't know. We'll never know. I'm sure what was happening behind closed doors at 2103 West Volunteer Way was weird and uncomfortable and horrific at times, long before the murder. Here's producer Pam again.
The Gypsy Rose economy is something that I could never have conceptualized until we were part of it. And the way that content mining actually looks in real life, I had the benefit of being objective because I'm not getting sucked into this case on the granular level. And so I can look at this like these are just the Hills Have Eyes people. I grew up with people like this all around me. You grew up with people like this all around me. It's just sickness and instability and entitlement at its finest. And it's homegrown. When you hear Dominique's interview and she's like, they're a little weird, a little Disney, you put the picture together. It's not hard with the evidence that we have now to put another picture together, which is one of like, yay, we love Disney and we love Marvel and we just love each other. Give me that pizza. Yay! We're going to another dinner. We get to have our concert. Oh, yay! I want that thing. It would be funny if it didn't end in murder.
There's many of us who are concerned about Gypsy Rose being seen as some kind of influencer for young women and girls. Her crazy antics to stay relevant on social media, her dances she did for Nick in those crazy videos going viral, phrases like Gyp Hip, the Gypstein Files, gonna gypsy my mom. Then there's that We Listen and We Don't Judge skit where she says that she went to prison for 8 years for killing her mom. And there's so much more. There are a lot of content creators making a lot of money covering Gypsy 24/7.
I'm your mom.
I'm your dad.
And you are a girl.
And now she has a baby. I reached out to Greene County Prosecutor Dan Patterson's office for a comment or interview. I did not hear back. The Toll Podcast is a production of The Toll LLC. Creator, investigator, host, and audio producer, Nancy Simpson. Executive producer, Pamela Shelby. Original intro and recording by Jay Lashley. Music by Fesleyan Studios. Get updates on our social media and at our website, thetollpodcast.com. Thank you for listening to The Toll. Like, rate, share.